Austin, you ready? Great.
All right.
Okay.
Shoppers.
Here's Sherber's all
We're on
announced
page.
pages.
Yeah, we're on page 214. I'm gonna start out with a. There's like a Nagoon, version of the what? Louder. All right. There's a Nagoon version of the Nusach, and so I'll just introduce it first, and join in when you're ready. And yeah, it's
Page 214 in Lev Shalem.
loud. All right. So, four parts. So, yum bum 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 ba da da yum da 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 yum da 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 yum da 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 Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, O Dehalu Asela, Ashrei Am Shekachalo, Ashrei Am Shadonai Eloav, Tehillah LeDavid. Tehillah Adonai Daber Pi V'Varech Kol Basar Shem Kodsho Le'Olam Va'ed V'Anachnu Nevarech Yam Yatav Yad Olam Hallelujah 216 Uva Letzion Goel Ulshavei Feshav Yaakov Nahum Adonam V'ata kadosh yoshvei tehillah Yisrael v'kara ze v'yamar Kadosh, kadosh, kadosh Adonai tzavot melech ol haaretz kevodo V'tisaini ruach ve'eshmach rekol ra'ash gadol Baruch Adonai mimkomo Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai Elohei Abraham Yitzchak Yisrael Avotenu Manahu Eloheinu Shebaru Livavodo Zman Yezamecha Yevod Velo Yidom Vivtehu v'chayodea shemecha ki lo ezavta dorshecha Adonai Adonai chafetz le'amot tzidko yagdil Torah v'yadir ויתגדל ויתגדל שמי רבה ויאמר ודקירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן ישמי רבה מברא לעולם ועולם יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר וירומם ויתנשא ויתודה ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה ברכו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן מעלמה ואמרו אמן ואני תפילתי לך אדוני את רצון אלוהים מרח חסדך אינני באמת ישייך ויהי בנשוא אהרון ויאמר משה קומה אדוני ויפוצו אויביך וימוסו משנאיך מפניך כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני מירושלים ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו גדלו לאדוני איתי ונרמה שמו יחדיו לך אדוני הגדולה והגאולה והנצח והאור כבול בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני המלכה והמנשא לכל הראש רוממו אדוני אלוהינו ושלחו להדבר רגליו קדושו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו ושלחו להדבר כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו
CD will you? I got I shiny things. Hey, a step stool just for me. You can be seated if you're not already. New year, which means new book. Just actually coincidentally this year we're in a brand new book. If you want to follow along with the readings, we're on page 317 in the larger of the two red books in the Eitz Chaim.
276 in the weekday.
276 in the weekday, which has the full breakdown. And if I gave you the first aliyah, please come forward. Michael. Ben Yeshaya Laliyah Rishon Baruch Shnatan Torah Le'Moisei B'Kedushato V'Tamad V'Kimin Elechem Chayim Kolechem Hayom.
should be pretty easy to find. There you go. There you go.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaBarak.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'Mayim.
Baruch Adonai HaBarak Le'Olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'charbanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Toratav. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen ve'ele shemot bnei Yisrael haba'im Mitzrayma et Yaakov yishaveto ba'u Reuven, Shimon, Levi v'Huda Yisachar, Zevulun uVinyamin Dan v'Naftali, Gad v'Asher V'hi kol nefesh Yitzei Yerech Yaakov Shivim nafesh V'Yosef hayav Mitzrayim ויעמוד יוסף וכל אחיו וכל הדור ההוא ובני ישראל פרו וישרצו וירבו ויעצמו במאוד מאוד ותמלא הארץ אותם.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נותן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בסופנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Tamad hachazan. Shulamit Torah. Bat Rav Yochanan. V'le'achana v'le'ah shniya.
Sorry about that.
Second Aliyah, verse 8. Is that right? Yeah, verse 8.
Easy peasy. Right here. First paragraph.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch et Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Vayakom melech Hadash al Mitzrayim asher lo yada et Yosef. Vayomer el amo hine am bnei Yisrael rav ve'atzum mimenu havayin chachma lo pen yirbe v'haya ki tikrena melchama benosav gam hu al shonenu v'nilcham banu ve'ala min haaretz Vayasimu alav sarei misim leman anoto visivlotam vayivein arei miskenot leparo et pitom ve'ed Ramses v'cha'asher ya'anu oto ken yirbe v'chein yifrotz vayakutsu mi penei bnei Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Oh, we can let him talk one more time. Yes. Yamad.
Baruch ben Chaim.
Baruch ben Chaim v'chana l'aliyah shlishit. Verse 13.
Baruch et Adonai Hamavrak. Baruch Adonai Hamavrak le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayavidu Mitzrayim et bnei Israel befarech vayamaru et chayhem ba'avodah kasha b'chomer uvilvenim ובכל עבודה בשדה את כל עבודתם שעבדו בהם בפרך. ויאמר מלך מצרים למילדות העבריות אשר שם אחת שפרה ושם השנית פועה. ויאמר בילדכן את העבריות הוריתן על האבניים אם בן הוא ועמיתן אותו ואם בת היא וחיה. ותראנה המילדות את האלוהים ולא עשו כאשר דיבר להן מלך מצרים ותחיינה את הילדים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. If I get someone to support you, is that good, or you want me to get someone else? This morning, yeah. Micah, you want to do a Haggadah? Okay, yeah, Haggadah, please rise for lifting, wrapping the Torah. The other way, we're on the other side. There we go. Can you hold that? Table and push down. This It's fine, there anybody who is marking a yard site this week or today and wants to come forward for an El Male? Come on up, Rosa. Do you want to hold the Torah? Do you want to hold the Torah?
I'll
Yeah.
hand it off to you.
You want to hold it? And who is this for?
My sister-in-law Eva died 9 years ago today. The first time I met my sister-in-law, she had already been married for about 4 years to my brother. Really, I was serving overseas in the army. Really, and I first met her when she already had a baby that was about 3 months old, and she was married to my brother. My brother was married to her for 40 years. Okay, and she battled ovarian cancer for the last 10 years of her life. She died young, but she was a lovely person. She was born in Hungary, and I value her friendship a lot.
Beautiful. And can you give me her name when I pause in the?
Eva Chava.
Okay, I'll pause and you can give me also either her last name or her parent name.
She took on my brother's name, Rosenberg. Eva Rosenberg.
Okay. El Male Rachamim שוכן במרומים, המסי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים ודברים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, לנשמת איבה רוזנברג, של חלי עולמה, וגני תנתי מנוחתה, הנבא לרחמים, הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך, לעולמים וצרור פצרור חיים, את נשמתה אדוני ונחלתה, ותנוח בשלום המשכבה, ונאמר אמן. Yehi zichra baruch, may her memory continue to be for a beautiful blessing. Anyone else? If not, we'll, for Grandpa, yeah. You wanna hold the Torah? Right, I forgot.
Yes, you can talk.
I can talk, okay. This is for my dad's dad, my Grandpa Jules, who I loved very dearly, who lived to almost 103 years old, who got to visit this congregation like some 8 or 9 years ago, and had a fabulous Southern accent and an even more fabulous life and soul. He's Yoel Ben Zeled. El Mali Rachamim שוכן במרומים, המציא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, לנשמת יואל בן זלג שלח לעולמו, בגני עדן מנוחתו, הנבא לרחמים, הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור חיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר amen. Is there one particular memory you want to share of Grandpa?
Yes, he said,
I'm closer to the mic.
yes, I'm thinking about 103 years of stories. Dad grew up in Petersburg, Virginia. His family moved from New York in 1915. In fact, he's 100 years older than Ella and came out for Ella's right after she was born. He said when he was 5 years old, they took the train up, this 1920, to New York City, and no one had ever heard a Southern accent there, and they put him on a table, and he said, "What y'all want me to say?" And they just started laughing and laughing. "Why y'all laughing at me?" But until I didn't know he was from the South, I thought he had a mental problem or something. But he did end up using umbrella. In fact, my mother would say, he said umbrella and cement, and he said, we didn't lose Richmond, we gave it to the South, to the North, excuse me. But he was a Union man, so he was okay.
He lived an amazing life, and when he got to be 99 years old, people asked him how he was going to get to 100, and he said, well, I'm going to get to this 99, and then I'm going to be real careful. And he was. So may his memory continue to be for a blessing. Anyone else? Great. Okay, so Austin will take the Torah back in his arms. We'll continue in the service on page 221. We're in the Sidur Lev Shalem. This one's yours? Okay, perfect.
Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, ki nizkav shemo levato. כי לקח טוב נתתי לכם תורתי, אל תעזובו, עץ חיים היא למאחזים קמבח וזומריה מאושר דרכיה דרכי נועם וכל מציבותיה שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ויאמרי ונקידותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורא לעולם ויומיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר וירומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמרת בעלמה ואמרו amen.
The whispered private Amidah for Shabbat afternoon begins on page 223. It's recited individually.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elokei avotenu, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, v'Elokei Yaakov, Elokei Sarah, Elokei Rivka, Elokei Rachel, v'Elokei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר מגן משיח ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ובוקר צרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים רצו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בהגברות ומגדול מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נקדש שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב ביד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלך כל הארץ כבודו ליומם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו דברי קודשך כתוב לאמור ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לטובתו הללויה לטובתו נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לימוש לעולם ועד כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש אתה אחד ושמך אחד ומי כעמך ישראל גוי אחד בארץ תפארת גדולה ועטרת ישועה יום מנוחה וקדושה לעמך נתת אברהם יגל יצחק ירנן יעקב ובניו ינוחו בו מנוחה אהבה ונדבה מנוחת אמת ואמונה מנוחת שלום ושלווה והשכם ובטח מנוחה שלמה שאתה רוצה בה יכירו בניך וידעו כי מאיתך כי היא מנוחתם ועל מנוחתם יקדישו את שמך אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו רצי ומנוחתנו קדשנו במצוותיך קדשנו במצוותיך וכן חלקנו בתורותיך סבינו מטובך ושמחנו בשועתך ויתר ליבנו לעבודתך באמת והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה ורצון שבת קודשך וינוחו בישראל מקדשי שמך ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת רצי אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל תפילתם ישב את העבודת דבר ביתך ותפילתם באהבה תקבל ברצון ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך ותחז עינינו לשובך לציון ברחמים ברוך אתה אדוני המחזה שכינתו לציון מודים אנחנו לך שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד צורכנו ושוננו ודור נדע לך צפית תהילתך על חיינו הבשרים בידיך וינקותך הגדולה וינשך הטוב כי לא חלו רחמך והרחמים כי לא תמו חסדיך מעולם קיווינו לך ועל כולם יתברך ויתרומם שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד וכל החיים יודוך סלע, והללו את שמך באמת, האל ישועתנו בעזרתנו סלע, ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך וכנאה להודות, שלום רב על ישראל עמך, ועל כל יושבי תבל תשים לעולם, כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום, וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני, המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. צדקתך צדק לעולם, ותורתך אמת, וצדקתך אלוהים עד מרום אשר עשית גדולות, אלוהים מי כמוך, צדקתך כהר ראל, משפטך תהום רבה, אדום ובהמה תושיע אדוני. יגדל ויגדל שמי רבה, ויאמר ורקידותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ובמכון ובחיי דחו בית ישראל, בעגלה וזמן קריב ואימרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם עולם וימיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויאומן ויתנשא, ויתזר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה בריחו, לעילם מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמרה מימה ואימרו, צגבה זאת הון ובת הון דחו ישראל, קדמה והון דבי שמיה ואימרו, יש למה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואימרו, עושה שלום ממרומיו, ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ויראו אמרו עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל לשבח לאדון הכל, לתקן עולם ויוצא בראשית, שלום את ואנחנו לפניך אדוני אלוהים. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ויעמד דברה קידותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון ובימיכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רב המבורך לעל עולמי המיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר וירומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי קודשה בריחו, לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, למרן מעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen.
Thank you to Austin for leading us. The davening sponsored by the state of Texas. And also Yisher Koach to Elizabeth and to Rabbi Jordan Hirsch for laning as well. what happens next is you're going to head just down the hallway if you're here in person to, we also have friends who join us from afar. Those of us who are here are welcome to go down and enjoy a light Sudashli sheet over in the downstairs lobby. And at 5:20, we will have an opportunity to learn with Rabbi Danny Pressman here in this chapel, followed by Ma'ariv. In case you're checking your schedules religiously, I want to be clear that the Malave Malk and Havdalah experience will start at 6 p.m., so we're not in such a rush. And so go and get a little something at Nasha, something to eat, and then we'll be on this channel in this room learning in about 15-ish minutes.
And if you would like, you can bring food back into this room. This room is a eating, drinking zone. You can eat in here. So if you would like to eat in the lobby, you can, but you can also feel free to come back in here and schmooze before Rabbi Pressman teaches. Felt like that was important given there are places.
I have to. I was honestly like, this is not, I'm not cut it. So I was like, how do I multiple? Right, yeah.
Did you hear what I said while he got called? I was like, oh, typecast.
So I totally forgot in the middle, wherever you can. Draw my downs on those things.
You're fine. The thing about this congregation is that we will bulldoze you no matter what, so it's fine.
Y'all tripped me up. I was like, wait, am I supposed to pause to wait? And so,
Oh, that's cool. That's fun.
is that standard behavior? It's something that I've experienced here. Every we do something. I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, you know what's funny? It was like a hybrid online in-person program. So it was like you would do. It was 2 years long, and you would do like a week at a time in Berkeley. So I went for the first week. I started in 2019. So I went to the week, and then like the second year is supposed to be actually 10 days. And then like it was 2020, so everything's good. Yeah, especially being in public.
Only nervous because I'm so excited. But
Oh gosh, I remember. No, all the public health stuff I think is in that really new building.
We want you to succeed.
Yeah, exactly. So really cool. Thank you
It's
so
like
much
not.
for that.
Oh yeah.
It's not like it's not the pretty part of the campus with like the huge runways and stuff. Yeah, but I did get a chance to.
Yeah, but we'll give you a ride to the airport.
Nice. Okay, so she would fight us on which is the real campus.
No, from here. We're gonna be here. I'm sorry, we're gonna be here. Oh, okay, great.
Like until whatever, 10, 11,
Not really. I'm in Memphis State. Yeah. So they'll just.
We'll all go together.
Our program is like very. You can do a lot of
If
things
not,
with it.
we don't mind paying for a ride.
Well, it's a few different things.
You can work in a lot of different areas of life, skills. So I manage quality
We have, yeah, that's perfectly fine. We like it.
Because of this,
It's awesome. Thanks. Originally, here, let me put this away. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't time it right with the subway.
So it's official. I love it. Does she have a job like that? Nice. Do you know what kind of unit it is? Okay. Yeah, sounds like it. This is like so I can
All right, well, at least you got here and you're fine. This person comes in right now.
not so much the work. I don't manage
Oh, so where am I? All right, we'll figure this out.
Face that way. Facing that way.
It may not be too far away. So which way am I facing?
You're facing this direction.
So can you move that? The standard my way? And we can clear off some of this.
Do you want to share your yichus to this place, or do you want us to?
Is anybody going to introduce me?
Yeah, I think Cantor Chorney is.
Okay, well.
We weren't sure if you wanted.
No, I'm going to actually mention it as I get started.
Okay.
But,
A
you
lot
know.
of people were very touched that we said Rabbi Pressman's going to be teaching. So.
Yeah, well, you know, there's this concept of the decline of the generations, so.
Doubt it. I doubt it. Well, and some people have. I mean, some people don't know his.
No, yeah, well.
So for some people, it was just this guy is going to be teaching us. But for other people, it was.
Yeah, well, that's what my congregation thinks. They
I
don't
don't think
know.
that's true. When I was in NorCal, people knew of Jack.
Well, it depends where, you know.
Yeah, I guess you talk
He came and visited sometimes when, you know, after he retired.
Yes, right.
And one year he did the blessings, you know.
Rabbi Pressman's going to be teaching from here. So if anybody is not offended, but perturbed by not being able to see his face, you can go over to this side.
Definitely a mixed
because
blessing.
Everybody else is not paying attention to us to move in here. So you get first dibs at seats. That is how I really feel. You will always know how I really feel.
Too close?
I have never sugarcoated a
No,
thing
I'm
in my
going to
life.
introduce you.
Let me just give them one more push.
One more
push, okay.
We're still okay on time, right?
Yeah, we'll try to.
And after
Maybe
me as
Mari
well.
by 5:40. Between 5:35 and 5:40. Mari, yeah.
This is yours.
That's how I am. I like it out in front of me. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Shabbat Shalom again, everybody. It's a great. Well, we're going to start introducing him, and by the time they get in here, they'll learn. Shabbat Shalom again.
Shalom again.
It is a very special sweetness to invite Rabbi Pressman to this bima to teach us. And it's not just because of his family's legacy here at Beth Am, and I'll let him speak about that in just a moment. It's also that Rabbi Pressman is a rabbi's rabbi. I want to name 2 ways that that's true. One is that many of you know that synagogues get into positions where it's really important. Sometimes it's hard for them to be convinced, but it's really important for them to have an interim rabbi, somebody who has very few stakes in the game except for wanting to see a community thrive writ large. And I know so many communities have been touched by your leadership and your stepping in that regard. Even more importantly, currently, to the movement, to me as a rabbi, is that Rabbi Danny Pressman sits as chair of the Vad HaKavod, the ethics board for the Rabbinical Assembly. He is there to care for people when we need to sharpen our rabbinic ethics towards one another, both in receiving and in giving. And in that way, I trust him deeply. And therefore, it's such a privilege to learn Torah from you this afternoon. The mic is yours.
Thank you, and welcome to the dinner theater portion of our weekend. Thank you very much. It really is an honor. I was so honored to be invited to be part of this awe-inspiring company of rabbis and teachers. And of course, it's very special to be back here at Beth Am, where I grew up and where my love of Judaism and Torah were nurtured. And I want to say that those of you who know rabbis' kids know that it's not automatic that a rabbi's kid wants to be a rabbi. And as I've reflected about being back here, I realized that there were many other adults and also a peer group that helped me to become a Jew of my own here at Beth Am, and of course, got to throw in Machane Ramah as well. So, one last thought. I realized that since 1950, Temple Beth Am has had 3 rabbis. And as you may know, there are some congregations that can rip through 3 rabbis in less than 10 years. And those congregations generally don't flourish. So my father was here for 35 years. Joel Rembam was 25, and Rabbi Kligfeld is 16 years, and Cain Yerbu, right? And I was very touched by something he said last night. Is he here? Okay, at any rate, that talking about the relationship he has and all of the wonderful professionals here have with the congregation. And, 3 rabbis in 75 years, that's the congregation too. It means, first of all, they're good at picking rabbis and senior rabbis. And secondly, that there's a culture of kavod and collaboration. And maybe one of the most important things he said about that is they have permission to fail, to try stuff and fail. And I spent 33 years as an English major in Silicon Valley, serving the engineers. And I learned about the iterative process, which is you try something, you see if it works, you learn from it, and you move on. So many institutions don't allow for that. So that shows the level of trust and everything about the relationship here. So that is also something, along with prayer and Torah, that needs to be exported back to many of our congregations. Maybe not yours, but many congregations. Okay. Birshut Rabotai. So when considering a Torah reading, we have a powerful lens for sharpening our discernment, the inexhaustible treasure of our rabbis and meforshim over the ages. And we learn that a verse is not a verse. A verse is a constellation of meaning. And we even have this wonderful institute, the people won't even know what a Mikro Kodolot is soon, and they'll just go to Sefaria. But, with all these traditional commentators on the page, often disagreeing with one another, explicitly by name. So that's, I guess if you ask me what my spirituality is getting that Torah, getting the multiplicity of voices that are found in every verse. So this afternoon we begin reading Sefer Shemot. So of course we know this story. It's our people's master narrative. It's mentioned all the time. And one thing in reading what we read today, one verse just jumped out at me. Vayakam melech hadash al Mitzrayim asher lo yada et Yosef. A new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. 10 words that change everything for Bnei Yisrael. This verse is what, in literary terms, is called the inciting incident. The inciting incident. According to one definition, the event that sets the main character or characters on the journey that will occupy them through the narrative. Exactly what happens in that verse. And following that, enslavement, oppression, liberation, Exodus, the giving of the Torah, the wanderings, all that comes from Pharaoh's forgetting Joseph. So imagine how devastating this was for Bnei Yisrael. They felt safe in their allotment in Goshen, thanks to Joseph's saving Egypt from famine. And with 10 words, their world is overturned and their security vanished. I don't think these days we have to use much imagination to understand what they felt, both from what's going on right now, but also from post-October 7th. That's not my theme today, but I couldn't help noticing that resonance. So now back to the verse. The plain sense of the verse seems obvious. Time passed, the Israelites grew more numerous, and Joseph had faded into history. But our rabbis were never content with the obvious. So there's a midrash found in Tractate Sota, and there's a dispute between Rav and Shmuel, as there often was. And they're disagreeing essentially about that one word, chadash, new. Rav goes with the plain meaning, chadash mamash, right? Because that's what it says. So there was a new king. Shmuel complicates things. No, it was the same Pharaoh, Shenit Kadshu Gzerotav, who renewed his decrees, or we might say revised his decrees. So how do we know it was the same Pharaoh, according to Shmuel? Well, it doesn't say that Pharaoh died, so it had to be the same Pharaoh. So, who knew not Joseph means that he was like someone who did not know him at all. In other words, ingratitude, deliberate unknowing. So our Eitz Chaim commentary refers to a fairly obscure midrash, Mishnat, Rabbi Eliezer, but I'm going to bring you more of the full text. Was it not the case that the Egyptians knew of, and by the way, as you'll hearing, it expands it to all of Egypt, forgetting, unknowing. Was it not the case that the Egyptians knew of Joseph's kindness to them? Rather, they knew of it, but didn't consider it and were ungrateful for it. The Hebrew is stronger. They denied his goodness. And in the end, they denied God's goodness. As Pharaoh said, I do not know the Lord. Thus, ingratitude is compared to denying God. So, who knows why this was? I mean, Pharaoh, maybe it was a case of, what have you done for me lately? Maybe it was, well, sometimes when someone does somebody a favor, they resent it in a way. And if you're an absolute monarch, you certainly resent being reminded that you were dependent on someone, let alone a foreigner. But whatever the case, no gratitude. So, but it's not just Pharaoh. It's easy for people to lose track of that for which they should be grateful. It seems like there's a gratitude muscle which atrophies if not exercised. It's easy to forget or ignore the things that people do for us, or even worse, feel entitled. And it's a vast network of people. There's a wonderful book by A.J. Jacobs called Thanks a Thousand, where he traced, anybody know this book? Where he traces where his coffee came from. And he goes all the way back to Colombia and finds 1,000 pieces of what comes to him every day. Likewise with God. God's gifts to us, the magnificent universe, life, health, family, love, and beauty, are so present in our daily lives that in some ways it's even easier to take them for granted. Fortunately, our liturgy provides calisthenics to maintain gratitude muscle tone. And, you know, there's one of these convergences earlier. Rabbi Ingber also referenced Rabbi Meir, who said you should say 100 brachot a day. So to me, in thinking about that, that means, first of all, it's possible to say 100 brachot a day. There's 100 possible opportunities to praise God, to be grateful. But on the other hand, legislating that many, it's easy to fall into, yep, check, and not have it in that internal sense of gratitude. So what I want to do for the rest of my time up here is talk about the very first moments of consciousness in the morning. So I'm going to tell you things you know, but I hope to give a little more understanding. When we first wake up, before we get out of bed, we say, what? Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam. No name of God in it, so we don't need to look for our kippah. She'achazarta bi nishmati b'chemla laba emunatach. I thank you, living and eternal sovereign, for your kindness in restoring my soul. How great is your faithfulness. We wake up to appreciation. Thank you, God. I'm alive. I don't take that for granted. And if you're like me, some mornings this is a heavy lift. You know, I'm not a morning person, so all the more necessary. Then there are the Birchot HaShachar, which we generally recite in the morning service. But the Talmud tells us in Brachot, these were originally crafted to be said at particular steps of arising in the morning. So I'm going to tell you some of them. And before I do that, I want to say that our teachers were sensitive to the fact that there are people who, for some of these, not possible. And I became even more sensitive. I had some vision loss in the last year. So for the very first one, you know, I think about it differently now. And so they actually said that if you're not able, you know, like we say, rise if you're able, then don't do that bracha. We understand that that might be difficult, a heavy lift for you. So, after Modeh Ani, Pokeach Ivrim, who gives sight to the blind, for when you open your eyes. Matir Asurim, who releases the bound, when you stretch and sit up. Rok Ha'aretz Al Hamayim, who stretches out the earth above the waters. That's when you step out of bed onto the solid ground of God's creation. Zokef Kefufim, who straightens those who are bent when you stand up straight. Hamechim Mitzadei Gaver, who steadies our steps when you begin walking. And the last one, which I tend to want to say with fervor, Hanoten Li'ayev Koach, who gives strength to the weary. But I think maybe after you've done this other stuff with, you know, maybe you're a little less weary. So normally these are things most of us get to do every morning. And yet, maybe they're worthy of our pausing to think about them. So once I revisited this teaching as I was preparing last week, I decided to try to do this, to get up in the morning and after Modeh Ani to do each one, instead of doing what do most of us do when we first get up in the morning? We reach for our phone, right? Maybe not everybody. God bless you. You're a better person than I am. So even doing that, even not reaching the phone first thing was healing, you know. So, and it really was a great exercise. I'm going to try to continue it. So there's one last bracha I want to mention. It's in the Siddur Shalom. It's the Asher Yatzar. And it's introduced in the old Sim Shalom, rather. We are grateful for the gift of our body. So this is the Lev Shalem translation. So how many people are already familiar with this blessing? Okay, not everybody. Oh, good. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, who crafted the human body with wisdom, creating with it many openings and passageways. It is known and revealed to you that should even a single passageway rupture or a single opening close up, it would no longer be possible to exist and stand before you. Baruch atah Adonai, healer of all flesh, umafli la'asot, who creates wondrously. It's a beautiful blessing. And people who don't know are startled to learn that, as the Lev Shalem delicately puts it, this bracha is to be recited after taking care of one's bodily functions. Okay? And why is that startling? Because we live in a culture that would say, ugh. But we know that Judaism believes in our embodied soul, and so nothing that God created is not worthy of gratitude. And so it stands in the Siddur as a good thing to do. Good health is not to be taken for granted. Visiting people over the years in the hospital, I was constantly discovering new things that could go wrong that I didn't even know about. And, this is incredibly complicated and interconnected. And I started wondering, well, exactly how many things can go wrong, and so I consulted Professor Google. There's something called the Malacards, the Human Disease Database. Anyone can take a guess how many diseases are listed? Anybody know? 26,000. Yeah, 26,000 things that can go wrong. And yet most of us, most of the time, are healthy, Kanahura. And when we aren't, often enough, the holy work of medical healing and our body's own divinely created resilience can return us to health. So, we can wake up, groan, pry ourselves out of bed, and stumble eyes half open through our morning. Or we can have our tefillot highlight the many occasions for gratitude, even in the most everyday and routine moments of our lives. And I actually think it's no accident that our liturgy kind of front-loaded so many brachot for those very first moments of our day. What a great way to start out. In Shmuel's reading of our pivotal verse, Pharaoh chose to know not Joseph. And consider how much suffering and destruction came from that. For us, Pharaoh is a wonderful negative example. You could create a whole moral system around don't be like Pharaoh, right? And it teaches us to saturate our lives with gratitude, to receive every day as a gift and a blessing from God. So as I was preparing these words, I thought, well, wait a minute, isn't this obvious? Are these just greeting card sentiments? But then I realized our rabbis were wise because they knew how easy it really is to get caught up in life's daily demands and how often we aren't mindful of their worth. Gratitude must be nurtured every day, all day. We need constant reminders to keep us conscious. We need kavanah, not just for prayers, but for life. So I'd like to conclude with lines from a poem by the wonderful Marge Piercy. And again, if you don't know Marge Piercy, you should find her. She has a book called The Art of Blessing the Day, which is her Jewish-themed poems. And that title, The Art of Blessing the Day, is the title of this poem, of which I'm going to read a portion. The discipline of blessings is to taste each moment, the bitter, the sour, the sweet, and the salty, and be glad for what does not hurt. The art is in compressing attention to each little and big blossom of the tree of life, to let the tongue sing each fruit, its savor, its aroma, and its use. Attention is love. What we must give children, mothers, fathers, pets, our friends, the news, the woes of others. Attention is love. our tradition helps us pay attention. Love of the world, of people, of God. And with that loving attention comes gratitude, which reveals God's gifts wherever we look. Shabbat Shalom.
We're going to continue with benching, which Joey's going to lead us in. It's on page 87 in your Siddur. Joey will lead us in Shir Hamalot and then the Zimun and the first paragraph, and then we'll ask you to continue on your own, and then Rabbi Kligfeld will lead us in Mariv. You can sit on this, and I was just doing that for Rabbi Kligfeld.
Shir Hamalot b'shuv Adonai Yeshivat Zion Hayinu kecholamim Az Yamale Sechok Pinu Ulshonenu Rina Az Yamaru Vagoyim Higdil Adonai Lasoti Mele Higdil Adonai Lasoti Manu Hayinu Semechim Shuva Adonai et Shevitenu Kafikim Ba'negev Hazorim Bedima Berina Yikzoru Halachelechu Vachonose Meshech Hazara Bo Yavo Verina Nose Alumotav Tehilat Adonai Yudaber Pi Vivarech Kol Basar Shinko Shulam Ba'ed Va'anachnu Nevarech Yach Me'ata V'yad Olam Hallelujah Hodu Adonai Ki Tov Ki Le'olam Chasto Mi'emalil Gevurot Adonai Yashmi Akol Tehilato Chave Rein Varech Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach Me'ata V'yad Olam Birshut Chave Rein Rechalin Shechal Mishelo Baruch Alhinu Shechal Mishalov Tuvo Chayinu Baruchu Baruch Shemo Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Hazan et HaOlam Kulo B'tuvo Bechein Bechesed Uvrachamim Hu Notein Lechem Lechol Basar Ki Le'olam Chasto Uvtuvo Hagadol Tamid lo chasar lanu ve'ayachsar lanu Mazon le'olam va'ed Bavur Shemo Hagadol Ki welzanim farnes lakol Umetiv lakol Umechin mazon Lechol beriotav asher bara Baruch atah Adonai Hazan et hakol Nodel Adonai Lino Shin Hakol. Retiv chalitzin od mel. Ubirtin chani achlan od mel. Kulchan she'ezachechol. Shalom.
Shakoach, Joey. Kaddish to Rabbanan, page 38. Yitkadal, Vyitkadash, Shemer Rabba, V'alamad, Yivrach, Terutei, V'yamlich Malchutei, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, V'agala, V'zman Kari, V'yamru, Amen, Yehi Shemei Rabba, Mevarach, V'alam, Le'al Maya, Yiparach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitshomam, V'yitnasei, V'yithadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shmei Kudesha, Brit, Ve'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'yamru amen. Al Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Tamidehon v'al kol Tamidehon v'al kol man daskin be'araita divi atra hadain v'di b'chol atar v'atar Yehei lahon ulchon shlama rabba china v'chista v'rachamin v'chayin arichin mzona rebicha Uforkana min kodam avohon di b'shmaya v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim tovim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom romav u'barachamav yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Please rise for the Baruch Hu for Mariv on page 264. Urachum yechaper avon v'lo yeshki v'rbala shiva povleo kochama tov Adonai Oshem melech ya'anenu v'yom koreinu Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamborach Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam v'eh Baruch Adonai Hamborach asher b'raro mariv Umavi yomi midayla mavdio ben yomi ben leila nights of Ochimova. Chayve kayam tamidim lo chalenu leolam ve'ed baruch ata Adonai hamari varavim. Kem chayenu v'yorech yameinu ve'hem negei yomam v'layla v'avat chalta asim imenu leolamim baruch ata Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai echad. Adonai Elohechem emed v'menachos avekayam aleinu ki hu Adonai Eloheinu v'adu b'nachos. How's it going? Malchutov ratzon kiblu alehem Moshe b'nei Yisrael lachanu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chula mi chamocha b'alim Adonai mi kamocha darba kodesh norati lot osefele malchutecha ra'u v'anecha bokei yam lifnei Moshe ze Elianu v'yamru Adonai emlo elam ba'ed v'nemar kived Adonai et Yaakov ugalo miyad chazak mimenu baruch ata Adonai gal Yisrael ashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu Oyev dever bechev Rav Yaakov Yasser Satan Kiel melech hanum rachumata Ushmor tzeitenu v'oenu l'chaim u'l'shalom yata b'yad olam baruch ata Adonai shomer amo Yisrael ad Baruch Adonai l'amaim yameim Baruch Adonai mitzion shachem shalom Baruch Adonai Elohim Lord Yichvar כי המלכות שלך היא וליום היה תמלוך בכבוד כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה ברוך אתה אדוני המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ועל כל מעשיו יתגדל וקדש שמי רבה ולמד יברח וטבע מכבודי וחייך ונביא מכון אוכל לכל בית ישראל בגלל בזמן קריב אמרו אמן איש מרבם ברח לעולם לעל מעלמי יברח וישתבח ויתפאר ונעשה ויתדע ותלך ותלש בין הקדושה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תשוקתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. יעלמה דברך וכתיב עמך ועבדי בחייך ונביא מכון וחד לכל בית ישראל בגלל בזמן קריב אמרו אמן. ישמר רבם ברח לעולם לעולמי עלמי יברח וישתבח ויתפאר וינשא ויתהדר וידלב דלש ונקדושה בריחו. ויהי לה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. Middle of 279. Vino Marana Elohino Elena Masay Denakon Elena Masay Denakon and Yoshi Besete Romansel Shadai Banan. יקראני ועיניהו מוינו חיבת שרח על צבי עבדי אורך ימי מספיהו ירי בשועתי אורך ימי מספיהו ירי בשועתי. Back to 216 second paragraph. ואתה קדוש יושב תלוי של הקרזל זה ויאמר קדוש 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 ותישאני רוח ואשמח הרי כל רעש גדול ברוך ואדוני ממקום מעלן רוחה שמית בתרי כעשי זה אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ויבטחו בך ידי שמך כי לא עזבת דורשך אדוני אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה ויאדיר יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה יעמד דברך וכתיב עמך ועבדי בחייך ונביא מכון וחי לכל בית ישראל בגלל בזמן קריב אמרו אמן. ישמר רבם ברח לעולם לעולמי יברח וישתבח ויתפאר וינשא ויתהדר וידלב דלש ונקדושה בריחו. ויהי לה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. תקבל סרטון ואתון דכל ישראל כל דם ובהונדי ושמיה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רב מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום רמה ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עלינו לשבח אדוני כל עדי גואל יוצר לכל עמים יבושו שאנחנו נלך בשם עלינו אנחנו קוראים תחבים ומודיעים לפני מלך לכם לכם הקדוש ברוך הוא על כן אקבל לך אדוני אלוהינו ליום ההיר ובדבר זה. ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ואבן אמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. קדישה תום מורנס קדוש 282. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ויומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה בזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם לעולמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו. יעלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום רמה הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen. We're going to do a quick Havdalah here. We're also starting the Malava Malka upstairs very soon, which will also include a Havdalah, right, Rabbi Ingber? Will that include a Havdalah? So do whatever you want. But that's starting very soon, so if you want to go upstairs while we're doing a quick Havdalah, you can, because you'll get a Havdalah there also. If you're not planning on staying for the Malava Malka, you can linger for the Havdalah. Anai na na ya ya. Anai na 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 na. Ai na na ya na 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 na. Ai na na ya na 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 na. Ai ya da ya da da na na. Ai na na ya na 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 na. Hine el Yeshuati. Eftach velo efchad. Ki yozev ezimrad ya. Adonai vayehi li lishua. Ushaftemayim besason. Mimaynei Yeshua. Ladonai Yeshua. Alamcha birchatecha sela. Adonai tzvaot imanu. Miskav lanu. Elohei Yaakov sela. Adonai tzevaot. Ashrei adabotei abach. Adonai Yoshia. Hamelech yaneinu ve'yom koreinu la Yehudim hayta ora ve'simcha ve'sason ve'yekar kein tiyeh elanu kos Yeshuot esa u'v'shem Adonai ekra. Baruch atah Adonai Mecholam Borei Minei Besamim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Borei Miorei Ha'esh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Abdil Ben Kodesh Lechol Ben Or Lechoshech Ben Yishvil Meimen Yom Eshvil Sheshem Mehamase. Baruch atah Adonai Hamavdil Ben Kodesh Lechol. Hamavdil Ben Kodesh Lecho Chatoteinu Imcho Zareinu V'chaspeinu Yarbe Yarbe Kacho V'kakochavim Balala Zareinu V'chaspeinu Yarbe Yarbe Kacho V'kakochavim Balayla Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Agiladi, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Agiladi. Abim Heira Yavo Elenu, Imashiach ben David, Bim Heira Yavo Elenu. Mashiach ben David. Shavua Tov, good avach. Upstairs for the B'Lav Malka, if you want to join us, it's going to be very special.
Very quickly, guys, see this. This is my coworker, pastry. Try and guess whose bear is which.
Well, I'm assuming you're holding your own.
Yep, that's the baguette.